Queens. Thanks for joining us today for the Chosen Chat Chronicles. Hello, my name is Kimby Wells, and I will be your host today. Let me introduce our queen, Lady Nicole Howard. She's in the house today. Hello, beautiful.
Yeah.
Hi, hi. Today, Queens, we will be discussing The Juicy Juice, a book titled Chosen, a lady's journey from called to crushed to crowned. Matthew 22:14 states, "For many are called, but few are chosen." And I believe that's Lady Nicole's one of her favorite scriptures. So let me give you a little background on Lady Nicole Howard. Nicole is from the East Coast. She was raised by her lovely mother and father. She has two brothers and two sister-in-laws. Nicole has a very large family. She attended college to receive a business management degree. She was a born again Christian at a very young age. Amen. And she has
Amen.
been and will always be very active in church. Nicole has two beautiful sons and a wonderful husband who is a king, King Cam.
Mhm.
Amen.
Amen.
Nicole has many hobbies and activities. She loves to travel. She loves to empower women. That's something that Nicole and I both have in common. She loves to go to New York, and that's where her husband is from, so they do New York often. Nicole is also very involved in a ministry that she shares with her mother as an event planner. So, Lady Nicole, she has a lot of new things in the pipeline. She just started a new YouTube production. So it's called Respect My Royalty. And so you can go there, and her videos of Queen Up, her live podcast can be found on YouTube. As all of you might know, Lady Nicole was a first lady of a historical church where she was very involved in a lot of women ministries. So, Lady Nicole, there are a lot of queens in the house today.
Yes.
Um, they're beautiful, anointed, and saved young ladies. So, let's just start by saying when I first read your book, I thought it was awesome. But then I read that book again, and Lady Nicole, I was like, no, he didn't.
Yes,
Thank
it
God. Thank God the book is called A Lady's Journey. And he was married, Noel was married to, what's his name again? I keep on forgetting.
is. Eli.
Eli. Mm. Thank God he was married to Noel versus Kimberly because the book will be called Crush in Your Head. So let's get started, ladies, before you know I get so excited because it's just such a juicy juice book. So we're gonna start with a few questions. Um, the first question is, let's see. Uh, we have so many questions because
Yeah,
it's
there were
just
a
so
lot.
interesting. Yes, but let's just start with a general question. There was a part in the book where you mentioned that Noel was hit on by other married pastors and bishops while you were going through a divorce. Can you give us a little bit of background on that?
Well, that is true. I won't name names, but I was asked to dinner and lunch and offered a counseling session. Uh, yeah, while I was in the midst of the divorce, and the sad thing is that these gentlemen were quote unquote friends of
Mm,
Eli or knew him very well. Yeah, so
mm,
I was very surprised. Two of the men are married.
hmm.
Not sure about the others, the other. So yeah, that part was true. It's a true event.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
scandalous.
Now, yes. Now, this question did not come from Kim B, but I want to know as well.
Okay.
Do you think Eli has a sex addiction? Well, before you answer, this is what my thought is. First, we need to define what is a sex addiction for a married person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So I am not a therapist. I'm not a doctor. So I cannot say if Eli has a sex addiction or not. My personal opinion is no, he does not. My personal opinion is that he was just very selfish and controlling and greedy. But I don't think that it was uh, a diagnosis of a sex addiction. Did anybody else get that thought while reading the book?
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
No.
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 Yeah, we vote no, no sex addiction.
My thought was that he had some type of mood stuff going on, and the sex was a part of just feeding that.
Mhm. And that very well could be what the situation is, but I definitely don't think that it was a sexual addiction at all.
I feel like it could be because I was involved in a relationship with someone who engaged with multiple women, and in the end, when I asked him why, I just wanted to know why. He stated he had a sex addiction because he couldn't control himself. Sex addiction, I guess, goes in various forms. So self-control is definitely involved in that.
Yes. Uh-huh.
I think it was a game
Yeah.
that Eli was playing with all these different women because he was a pastor. And a lot of women um, see men in that position as in charge, and they wanted to be with somebody that was in that type of position. I mean, that's just like women that work in the corporate world and they have affairs with their bosses that are married. And they're only having an affair with them because of the title.
It's a control thing.
It's a control thing. And he wanted to control these women.
I 100% agree with that. Having lived in that house and some of the conversations that went on behind the scenes, and again, some of the things that were not included in the book, I will say very confidently that it was not a sex addiction, that it was a game. And it was a control thing, not sure why, but that was one of the things that I guess he felt that he had to do. So one of the questions were, do you think Eli is a user? For me, that is a very easy yes, I do. Again, being in a situation where I lived in the household and some things that went on behind the scenes, I'm very sure that that's exactly what he was. Again, I'm not a doctor, not a therapist, so I can't, diagnose him and say, he's a narcissist, but I would just say that he fits all of the bullet points that fall under that definition. What about you? Yolanda, do you have anything to say about Eli being a user or the sex addiction question?
No, I don't think he was a user. I think he was maybe an opportunist. He was jealous, controlling, it seems like. Because now, Nicole, I work with you, and I know he used to come and have lunch with you. But he never, and you introduced me as your friend, but he never really reached out and really said hi, like you know, like he wanted to meet your friends. It was like he wanted to keep you to himself.
Well, that is partially true. So I don't, how can I explain this about keeping me to himself? He wanted me, I guess, in his own little bubble, to where, you know, I think that there was an issue came into play when people started to actually like me, and people at the church, you know, liked me, and that, you know, the women started speaking to me and wanting and to confiding in me. That posed a problem for him. And it very well could have been jealousy. And there are some, my mom is smiling because there are some conversations that took place that would suggest that that's exactly what it was. There were multiple times when I said, you know, you and I are a team. We're on the same team. There's no competition. You know, when you do well, I do well. And I always want to do well. So I'm not going to, you know, sabotage you because someone put it in his mind that, you know, I was trying to sabotage the ministry. For what purpose, I have no idea. One thing about me, when it comes to ministry, is that I am about God's work. I'm about kingdom building. I am saved for real. I was saved before I met him. I have a relationship with Christ. And I tell people all the time that there are two people that I try not to play with. One of them is on this Zoom call, and her name is Pauline. I try my best not to play with her. The other one is God, because I know, being a child of God, doing some dirt, it will come back to you. He will deal with me because I represent who he is. And just in that same vein, just to kind of touch on some things that were, some questions that were given to me. When I am God's child, so if I mess up, he's going to deal with me, but I'm God's child. So if you do something to me, he's going to deal with you, because he takes me personally. You know, I'm his child. The same way you protect your child is what he does with me. Now, there's some things that I went through in that marriage that were, I think, just low down and dirty. I had the opportunity to get back at multiple people multiple times. The only reason why I didn't, and it's not because I'm just so good, and Lady Nicole is so pure at heart, and she's just, you know, always thinking about God. No, the reason why I did not do it is because I was so scared of what God would do to me. So I said this multiple times throughout my book tour, that it comes a point in your relationship with Christ that if you trust God, you trust God. And we always talk about you reap what you sow, and, you know, I'm going to let God do what God does. You can't always talk about it. You got to be about it. So I had to shut up and let God do what God was going to do. Was it easy? No. And the reason why it wasn't easy is because those of you who know me know that I could be the nicest person in the world, but if you push me, my tongue, my mouth could be vicious. I could go there.
Hey, Trish.
Girl, Kim B knows that I will deal with you. Not only will I deal with you, I come from a very large family, North Philadelphia, that if I made a phone call, trust and believe, the whole block would have known. Just one call. It would have been a problem. But he was not worth me having any of my family members.
Can I chime in?
Oh Lord, here we go. Yes, Mom.
I remember telling Noelle, this is hard for me, but I remember telling her, and I kept telling her, somebody was jealous of her.
Yes.
And me being a child of God, and all of us being children of God, God gives us all a sense of discernment.
Amen.
And God placed in my spirit that somebody was jealous of her. I never thought in a million years that it would be Eli.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hard because when you're having conversations with a person and they're telling you one thing and you're listening to it and you're saying, well, something's not right here.
Mm-hmm.
Something's not right here. And like the young lady said that she think he was opportunist. Yes, he was.
Okay.
Yes, he was. Because there was a lot of things that went on with Eli that it never made sense. And the first time I ever heard, I heard the word opportunist before. The first time I really caught on to it was listening to a show that came on Sunday nights. And y'all all know what the show is, but it was a mother in the show that kept saying that her son-in-law to be was an opportunist. And I started putting two and two together and I said, this is what Eli is. He's an opportunist, but he was not just an opportunist, he was jealous.
The
He
big
was
J.
jealous.
Big J.
And I've always said that J word is very dangerous.
Yes, it is.
And when you, and the reason why he was jealous, because Noel had a caring spirit, a caring heart.
Yeah.
She cares for women.
Yes, she does.
It was different events that Noel asked me to be a part of.
Mm-hmm.
And I seen it.
For
It was
yourself.
events that dealt with the women in that particular area where they all lived at. And what she may have seen, I seen different. I seen totally different. Eli was very jealous, and he wasn't the only one. He was not the only one.
Well, I completely agree with you, Mom. And I also would just to add on to that, not only it was jealousy, but what happens is that when you are an abusive person, and I don't mean physically, but when you're an abusive person and you are lying and you're being sneaky and you are trying to sabotage reputations, it's easier to have your wife look like the villain. So the women, you can tell them what you want to hear. You can play on their emotions. You can talk to them and make them believe, oh, she's this and she's that, because he didn't want people to like me. Part of that is because it was jealousy. And the other part is because he was feeding a need to have women kind of flock to him and pay attention to him and just hang on every word he says. And, he wants to be admired and loved. Quote, true story. I was told one time that, I'm beloved. Everybody loves me. The women love me.
Really?
Who said, oh, child. Yeah. Child.
His mother really fed that too. Like her role. I mean, I know you didn't write a whole lot about her, but her role, it seemed like she really fed that. He was to be almost like adorned or admired. She didn't seem to have a whole lot of standards in terms of how she expected him to treat you as a husband.
Okay, so I'm very careful about this next part, and my mom is laughing. There is a reason why I did not speak too much of her in the book. I tried to keep it to the two main characters as much as possible, but I had to have other characters just to kind of set up a scene or whatever. But yes, his mother played a major part in a lot of things that went on. I just have not shared. I have kept quiet about a lot of things for a lot of different reasons. And out of respect, I will not go into detail, but there has been a lot. So your interpretation of that relationship is absolutely accurate.
Okay.
And yes, it is. Yes, it is, because me and Eli's mother had a conversation, and I did everything I could because we were going to all be family. And like I come from a very, very large family, but I had one long conversation with her. It lasted about 2.5 hours. She did most of the talking because I said at that point in time, I will never talk to this woman again because it could go totally left.
Mm.
It could have went totally left. And I said, and to chime back, when I said that somebody was jealous, when I told Noel that someone was jealous of her, Eli wasn't the only one.
Interesting. Interesting.
He was not the only one.
I can see it, Mom. I can see it. I met her a couple of times.
Like she said, all you have to do is make one phone call to my family. But that's for another day. The reason why it was not done.
Okay.
Right.
And the reason why it was not done. But I always told Noel, Eli was not worth not one single person
Right.
in Noel's family to go to jail.
Amen.
Not one.
We in the orange jumpsuit.
Right, exactly. Take him. We're going to move on to the next question.
Okay. So, the question that I really want to know are you writing a new book?
Girl. Well, let me just say, with the information that I didn't put in the first book is enough for a second book. However, yes, I have been thinking about writing a new book, just continuing on Noel's journey. The first book, called Crushed Crown, just basically focused on a lot on the crushing season. And I think it's important for women to understand that, yes, there is a crown season, but, what does that crown season look like for Noel? And what are the detailed things that, she did to get to her crown? And like I tell everyone, everybody's crown is different. For some people it's peace of mind. For some it's, let me get out of this house and get my own. Okay. Yes. And for some, God will just send you the perfect chocolate drop at the right time. Shout out Cam. So you just never know what God has in store for you, but there are some godly principles that I definitely think that women need to follow in order to get to that space. So yes, I am actively thinking about writing a new book.
Some golden nuggets for other young ladies.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I said, please drop some other golden nuggets for other young ladies.
As far as, what do you mean, when you're going through a crushing season?
Yes. Well,
for me, one of the most important things and the hardest thing was to take the high road. We hear people say that all the time, take the high road, like it's an easy thing to do. It's not always easy, especially when you have someone who is purposely trying to be low and do dirt to you. You could do it God's way. You can, be positive, be polite, try to mind your business. And somewhere along the line, someone just always wants to kind of throw salt in the wound or just be nasty. But one of the things for me, like I said, is that I prayed often, and I tried to ignore foolishness. I tried to stay focused on what my goal is, because it's easy to get distracted and to fall into that nonsense. So one example was, there was a nasty blog.
Yes, I was going to get to that.
Yeah. So let me, everybody knows for the most part that I am very, very private. I am a private person. I have always been private. So when I got call from someone who told me about the blog being released. I had already moved out of the house.
Mhm.
I was in my new apartment, and I read this thing, and I couldn't believe it. I called one of the people who kind of helped me through like the process. And I was on my bathroom floor in my apartment crying, just bawling. I was hurt that they included information about his mom, even the way she, regardless of how I feel about her or the things that she has done to me, I thought that that was not necessary to include her. That's one. Two, reading some of the comments and the nasty comments about me, I couldn't believe it, because then I discovered that some of the comments were from Eli and his entourage of people. Yeah, because he told someone that he did it, and they told me. And it just made sense after I started reading some of the comments. What was upsetting to me is that Eli, of all people, if nobody else knew that I didn't write that blog, he should have known. Only because the blog talked about 3 women. If I had gotten to the point where I wanted to put my personal business out there, everybody's name would have been in the blog. Not only would I have talked about the infidelities, I would have talked about some other things that he has done, things that would have gotten him into a lot of trouble. And he knows exactly what it is. So the fact that, kind of, excuse me?
Share, please.
I wish I could. And the only reason why I won't is because there are other people involved.
Okay.
And it's not my business to share.
Okay.
But trust me when I tell you, he would not want that information put out. And there are messages and Facebook messages. My mom knows all about it. So out of respect for the other person, I just haven't shared anything, and I won't. Yeah. But again, if I had gotten to that point, I would have told everything. Then I was in another blog concerning him. So it was just like one thing after another. So just imagine being in a town where none of your family is there. It's just me and my children, and I'm there, and people are stopping me on the street. People are saying things to me. One of the hurtful things that happened was at my son's graduation, where I felt so enraged that someone would say something at my son's graduation. That moment was about him, not about a divorce, not about infidelity, not about a blog. And they just took that moment from me and interjected that, and it just ticked me off like you wouldn't believe. But when the blog was released, apparently Eli stood in church and told the congregation that I was evil and that I was a liar, and that he was counseling the couple, one of the couples that were involved in the blog, and that there was no infidelity, which is absolutely 100% not true. But there are some other lies that were told from the pulpit, and they were allowed to be told from the pulpit. What is amazing to me is that continued. So, yeah.
I think for me, that's where I just totally jump off. I just can't believe that a culture like that is able to continue, that, you know, Eli would continue to be embraced by a congregation and by others, and that it would just go on and on. That's hard for me.
Well, I guess it's hard to believe that could happen. But when you have set up a scene that, you know, I'm the evil one, I'm quiet, I don't tell anybody my business, so people don't know, so they believe what he says. So it's easy to believe that the outsider is the evil one. It's easy to believe, oh, she just married him for his money. It's easy to believe all of those things. Oh, she's the one who's trying to sabotage the ministry. She's the one who's trying to, and none of those things were true. After Actually, last year, I got several Facebook messages, and one of the messages said, he told me that you couldn't stand me, which was strange to me, but, you know, and she said, but you were always so nice to me. She said, so did I do anything to you? And like, no, I didn't say that. She said, I didn't think you said that. She said, it just didn't make sense. She said, until I realized who he really was. So apparently there has been some, I guess, flirtation and conditioning to try to get this young lady, you know, in some kind of an emotional affair or situation. And she mentioned to me that, you know, other things were told to other people. And of course, I'm not going to reach out to everybody. Oh,
Sure.
you say this, that, and the other. But there were some people who reached out to me, and I had to kind of clear some things up.
Well,
but, you know,
I think you just answered my next question.
I'm sure I did. It's kind of just all tying in together.
The next question was, how hard was it to keep your head up when everybody was talking about you and your family? And I think you just shifted your crown because you're a queen.
Yes. Again, I don't want to paint the picture that it was just always easy. There are times when I struggled to keep that crown on. Again, I want to emphasize, I am from Philly. I will take that crown off if I need to. And I didn't want to be that person. You know what I mean? It wasn't worth it. And I didn't want to give them the satisfaction. So there are times when people said things and it was very hurtful. Yes. There were times when I would just laugh it off, and, you know, and then there are times when I was just really kind of just angry. Like, what is wrong with you people? Do you have no lives of your own that you just want to just keep this nonsense going? And it all kind of stemmed back from him. He kind of enjoyed this or got off on it or whatever the case may be. I really don't know. But keeping the crown on and keeping your head up, I had to do that for my children. My focus is to always protect my boys who are young men. I will do that at all costs. And I had to do what I had to do, and no, it was not always easy.
So, ladies, do you have any additional questions that you would like to ask at this time?
I do. I have one. Okay. So I remember in the book that you said that he had all of this debt when he came into the marriage that he didn't tell you about.
Yes.
So how did he, I don't remember if you said it in the book, but how did he tell you about that? Or did you ask about that? How did you find out, and how did he respond?
Okay, so there was one day he called me shortly after we got married, called me into, you know, downstairs, you know, I want to talk to you. Excuse me. And so, okay. And he said, well, one of the things I guess I should have told you before we got married is that, you know, I'm in debt, you know, there was a purchase that went wrong, or some property or something to that nature. And he told me the number, and I was just like speechless. Like, these are the things that you tell someone before you get married. We went through 6 months of counseling. So there was plenty of time. And he didn't just meet me and then we got engaged a month later. We dated. You know, I lived in Maryland at the time. But we dated for a while, and he had more than enough opportunity to tell me about it. Yes, I was very angry. I felt betrayed and almost tricked because you took away my decision, you know, my choice. You let me know everything ahead of time and let me decide if I want to deal with that. And it wasn't just a few $1,000s. It was a lot of money. So at that time, you know, okay, what needs to be done? Let's see how we can get this fixed and and so forth. And it wasn't just the debt, you know, there were issues with the house and some other things. And what do? Do what I do. I stepped in and let's see how we can fix this together. We're a team. You know, that's how I always operated, as being a team. But apparently, he felt that that was some kind of a threat, that I was able to know who to call and what to do and how can we get this fixed? What letters can we write to kind of get this removed, or, you know, because it wasn't going to just go away. And again, I never set myself up for failure. So if I'm connected to you, that means we're a team. That means we're in this together. Let's fix it together, you know? So that's how that went down.
Great question. Great question.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I do. So from what I read in the book, and from my clinical profession, he does seem to have some type of mental disorder, whether it be bipolar, schizophrenic. I'm not sure exactly which one.
Mm-hmm.
However, I commend you because you showed your strength with the help of God. You have shown other women how to get through the storm with God's help. Mm-hmm. And have such composure, and like you're just so calm, serene. I understand that you had your moments when you probably felt like snatching off, putting on the grease, the Vaseline, and the scarf and going for a blow.
Yes, I did.
Just with grace and elegance. And I feel that in your journey, you were Job, and God gave you back double.
Well,
yes.
In addition to that, you are humble.
Yes.
Your temperament was definitely, you have a different level of tolerance now. In addition to that, you have helped me. Just reading the book, when I finished, I just took an exhale, and I'm like, interesting, because I learned so much from what God has allowed you to go through. So I commend you for that book.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Yeah, the book definitely was a labor of love. You just never know what God has in store for you. I remember going to a church. This was right before I was put out of the church with Eli. I went to the church and the pastor looked at me and said, "Go take another dip." I did not want to. And the next time I went back to the church, I was put out. I was lied on, and I was the one put out of church. It was one of the ugliest things that I mean, it was just horrible. To get dressed at home, you know, put my gray dress on. He said, "Oh, you're wearing gray?" And he pulls out a gray suit. You know, I followed him to church and all is well. And then when I get there, he just completely just snapped. It was absolutely disgusting how that went down. And then the fact that his mom got involved and said some things that were not nice, called me the devil. And I'm thinking, how is that possible? Your son is lying. Your son is cheating, and she knew all about it, and she knew about some other things, and I'm the one, you know. And then the conversation was just, it was just horrible. And I just thought to myself, God, why? You know all things. Why would you have me go back to this church knowing that this was going to happen? Listen, I'm good with the marriage ending. I'm good with leaving. But let me do that in quietness and peace. This right here, I did not, this could have broken me, but it didn't. But the reason why this had to happen, the reason why the blog had to happen, is so all of this could happen. You know, God does all things well. It is And he works everything out for our good. Doesn't mean that it feels good. It doesn't mean that, this is what I had in mind, but he does it the way he needs to do it. People needed to read that blog because I wasn't going to tell it. They needed to know what was going on. I needed to be put out of the church the way that I was put out of the church. But let me just tell you how God works. I can honestly say, and my mom can vouch for me, the things that were done to me were also done to him in a worse way. I was put out of church. He was fired from being a pastor and put out of church. There are some other things that went, the house situation. You tried to get me out of a house that I helped save. And now you're having issues. The reason why I know is because I'm getting phone calls from people. Yeah.
Can I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
The one thing that that hurt me the most, a lot of this hurt me, but because I was told not to say anything, we're gonna work this out. I was the one who, when Noel came to me and said she was going to write a book, and I did say this. I said, why? Why? Because it's not to tell your business. This is when I read the first transcript, I said, this is going to help a lot of women, because she's not the only one that has gone through something like this. And she won't be the last. She's not the first, she won't be the last. But there's a lot of women that go through this. And after she wrote this book, a lot of people from my church bought the book, and it helped them. It has helped a lot of women.
Yes.
It has helped a lot of women, because a lot of women think because you get stepped on that you can't pick yourself back up. Mm-hmm. And you can pick yourself back up with God's grace and mercy. You can pick yourself back up. But what got me was, and I mentioned this over and over again, it was the night of the ordination. It was the night of his ordination. I said, something is wrong in this place. Something is seriously wrong in this place, this spirit in the whole place. And the church was packed out. Yes. And I said, these people are not here for him or his mother. These people were here because they thought they were going to see a concert by a well-known pastor and artist. And he gave them somewhat of a concert, but the Holy Spirit said something was wrong in here. After the service was over, one of the young ladies who I thought was Noel's friend, but I had told her a while ago that she was not. For Noel to keep her mouth shut when she's around this woman, she came up to me and said, we're going to support Noel. We're going to do this for her. We got her back. And come to find out, she was in the same lion's den with Eli. Yeah. I'm just going to say,
this young lady who my mother is referring to was someone who, I don't want to say pretended to be a friend, but again, anyone who knows me knows that me trusting people is not easy, and not that I had full confidence in her friendship or I trusted her like that, but she was friendly. But there was a time when I told my mother that something has shifted. God gives us discernment, and something was off. And then, how sometimes, when so much is going on, you think maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm tripping, because she's still nice, but something just wasn't right in my spirit. And then when my mother was around her, and my mom kind of co-signed what I was feeling, and turns out that she was actually involved in some things that,
it was a whole lot of things. It was a whole lot of things, because when you walk around and you want, and I just got to say this, she had a jealous spirit in her because of Eli and Noel's marriage. She wanted her marriage to be the super couple marriage. So she knew all the stuff that he was doing. She knew everything that he was doing.
Yeah, she did. I even went to her. I even said something's not right with him, and she's, you need to, stop being like that. You can't, you're in the flesh, you're, carnal, you can't do this. And turns out everything that I felt, everything I said was accurate, and she knew about it. Just for her benefit, it just would have been better for us to stay married, at least into the end of the year. So yeah, so that's that.
Yeah.
Kim was, he said, What's the next question?
Mm-hmm. No, she didn't want them to be miserable.
So,
Kim. I'm sorry, Harmony.
Noel, how do you feel now after your book has been published, and it's kind of like once the story is out there, you feel like an exhale, like a relief. How do you feel now after the publishing of your book?
Well, I actually feel good. A lot of people ask me about how did you feel about writing the book? Were you scared? And I'm going to say, honestly, no. I prayed and prayed and prayed about it, wrote, stopped, wrote some more, then stopped, wrote, and left it alone for a while. I knew that this is what God wanted me to do, and I trust God. So me releasing the book, I thought I did it in a classy way. And I know I keep kind of alluding to this, and I don't mean to, just kind of throw this in there. When I say that there's some people who should send me flowers and a thank you card, I really mean that, because there are some things that I could have put in the book that I did not. Mm-hmm. There are some situations that I could have exposed and I did not. So I felt that when I wrote the book and I prayed and talked to God about writing the book was to benefit women. My goal is to help as many women who are in crushing season as I can, whether that is divorce, whether that is abuse, whether that is the loss of a child or job, whatever the crushing season is, it is my goal to uplift and encourage women, and to know that that is just a season. It is not going to last always, and that there is a crown waiting for you. So these are just some of the things that I touched on in the book, and most of the things that were in the book were things that have already been discussed by the other party.
Okay.
So I just kind of elaborated on some of the lies that were told. But again, I feel like I did what God told me to do. And the reason why I know that I did what God told me is the way He blessed me.
Amen.
He's
Amen.
And it's just growing, and it's one thing after another, just one blessing after another. And if I could just testify just for a minute about this situation. After my divorce, while I was going through the divorce, I got a friend request on Facebook from this man who, okay, I got thousands of Facebook. I mean, the messages were, it was just terrible, some of the stuff. But this man sent me a message, and it was a nice message, and he told me that he knew somebody who knew me. Instantly, I said, here we go with this nonsense. He said, because I'm a good guy and this, that, and the third. I said, okay, yep. So he would encourage me, and he would send me notes, and just real easy, nothing, crazy. Oh, I'm praying for you. Just nothing, just inappropriate, just nice. And he was consistent while I was going through. Didn't ask me anything about my personal business, just nice to me while I was going through. And eventually, I connected with this man, and I let it be known I'm not interested in dating anybody. I'm not interested. I'm good. And I was really serious. I'm good with being single. Yeah, I was fooled before. Yeah, God not getting me again. I already know what this looks like. And then he says that he is a minister. I said, oh, heck no. No, no. So we could just be friends. That's it, you know. And this man was consistent and he was nice to me, just nice, consistently. And we went out one time, and I have to tell you, I had the best time. He just made me laugh and he made me smile. And I remember talking to Kim B about him. And I was like, he's nice, but I'm good. And Kim B was his biggest cheerleader. We went to a play, she met him, she was like, oh no, this is it, you know. Then my mom met him. He just found out I was writing a book, and he was just so passionate about what I was passionate about. His love for God, his love for me, his consistency, his it just all kind of fell right into place. And I remember saying this to him one day when we started dating and we got engaged, and I put it on Facebook. I said, God knew that my heart needed you. And that's exactly the way God operates. I was not looking for Dr. Cam Howard. I didn't want no Cam Howard or nobody else. I wanted to be by myself, leave me alone, let me do my own thing. And God gave me exactly what I needed. And not only what I needed, he gave me what I didn't even know that I wanted. You know, so I want women to understand, and it doesn't even always have to be in the form of a man. You know what I mean? Like I said, sometimes your crown is just peace, being able to sleep at night. Sometimes somebody is probably going to write a book. Somebody's going to start a blog, you know. Somebody just got their own spot, their own place, you know, and it's just the peace of it is just wonderful.
Well, Lady Nicole,
yes, ma'am.
I know you just answered. The question is, are you happy now?
Child, yes.
Amen.
Yes. I am happy. And I tell people when they ask me that, not only am I happy, I'm consistently happy. Amen. It's just a difference, because you can ask me, was I happy in my first marriage? Yeah, sometimes I was happy. Sometimes. But this is consistency and joy and happiness and peace and love. It is just the consistency of it that is just wonderful. You know, you're not waiting for the other shoe to drop or any nonsense or now what's happening now. What, you know, it's just nice and even. Now that doesn't mean that it's like perfect, you know. Sometimes he get on my nerves. Sometimes I'm sure I get on his nerves. But it's just that it's small things that you can kind of laugh off after a day or a couple hours or whatever, you know. And that was not the case with my first marriage.
Praise God. Okay, now. Awesome. So,
any more questions?
So I have one, and I know we've talked about this before. So in your book, you said eventually you did forgive him.
Yes.
So how did you finally get to that point that you were able to forgive him?
Okay, so for me, the forgiveness was a journey. It wasn't just something that, oh, I forgive you. And I said something on the Queen Up show, and I've said it on Facebook, and I still stand by it, that the forgiveness part was not easy. It was hard for me, and it was ever evolving. So there was a time when I thought that I forgave because it's the right thing to do. You're a Christian, you're supposed to forgive, and you know, so I forgive you. But it's hard to forgive somebody when they are constantly being dirty or being a jerk or trying to, you know, it really is. And you know, you want to say, now listen, now, I'm trying to do it the right way. I'm trying to forgive you. Just chill. But that doesn't always work that way. So I had to learn how to ignore his foolishness and forgive what he did and understand that God worked it out for my good. That is how I was able to forgive. I still think, and this is just my opinion, God didn't say this, I'm saying this, pray for me, that you were deliberate and loud with your disrespect. You were, loud and bold with your lies. Keep that same energy with your apologies. You told all these lies on social media and your blogs and your interviews and behind the pulpit. Apologize that way. Be a man and let people know I was wrong, even if you don't want to go into detail about all the stuff that you've done.
Right.
Carry that same energy with your apology. But that was not the case. I got an apology by text message and by email. And it is what it is. Not being sounding mean, but I kind of take it with a grain of salt. He is who he is, and it is what it is. I'm grateful to God that it happened, because if it didn't, I wouldn't have what I have now.
Amen.
Amen.
Happy.
So, ladies,
that forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for you.
Amen.
Yeah, it really is. It is for you, but also I don't want, so the reason why I was realistic about the forgiveness piece is because sometimes Christians are so holier than thou, where someone could, just do the most horrible things to them and they expect just forgive. It's not always that easy. It really isn't, especially when there's no apology.
Yeah. Right.
Especially when somebody is being deliberate with it, that undercover sneaky stuff, it's not always easy to forgive, but eventually, one of the things that I know kind of upsets him most is when he's ignored. And I've learned to ignore. I don't really care what he's doing. I don't care what he has going on. I could care less. The only reason why I know anything about his life at this point is because I get phone calls from realtors and different things like that about situations going on with his home, or someone will say something on Facebook, and even with that I've had to let it be known, please do not contact me about what he's doing or what's going on with his new wife. I already know what she got and what she's dealing with.
Right.
I already know. So, but that's what she wanted.
that I have.
You said, watch what you wish for, because you just might get it.
Right, exactly. But again, you going with the flow with all the lies or whatever, she probably believed what he said, but regardless of that, she knew that he was married.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Well, you know what? I do have a question in reference to Eli's current wife.
Okay.
She was one of the mistress in the book?
Yes.
Okay, now.
She was one of the ones in the book. She was the last one written
Tanya, right?
in the book.
Tanya.
Yes. There are two others who were not included in the book. Funny thing is that one of the two that was not included in the book, my publisher contacted me and said that so-and-so contacted me, and I said, who? And she gave me the name, and she said she wanted to know how she can get a rush order of the book before it was released. And I realized, wow, so there are people who are going to be buying the book, not because they want to know, what's going on with me. They want to know who's in the book or if they made it to the book. But no, everyone who was not included in the book. There are two mistresses who were not included. But yes, his current wife is in the book.
Okay. Well, Queens, remember to queen up
And thank you for joining the Chosen Up Chat with Lady Nicole. And please subscribe to Lady Nicole's Respect My Royalty podcast on YouTube. Until next time,